Doug Anderson. Doug, if you want to introduce yourself and then we can go ahead and get started.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Doug Anderson. I'm part of global compliance testing at Charles Schwab, and essentially what I do is perform exams throughout different areas of the firm, just making sure that we're complying with all the rules and regulations that we need to be complying with. And so I'm really excited to be here with Tiffany, and we hope to share some great information with you all.
Awesome. Thanks, Doug. And just like last time, please feel free to jump in anytime. You as well, Jimmy. So for those of you who I haven't met, I'll tell you a little bit about myself and what I do with Charles Schwab. So I mentioned that I'm a branch manager, but what that really means is I have a team of financial advisors that work for me, as well as some operations managers. And we work with clients, helping them manage their money, learn about finances, help them plan for retirement, find different ways to invest their money, create financial plans. So there's a lot of different things that we help clients out with. Normally that's done face-to-face, but we have all been, as you know, getting very creative with our technology. So we've been doing a lot of Zoom calls as well. So I'm really excited to be able to do this with you. Doug and Jimmy have partnered together before, and so I'm really glad that I'm able to join and give this presentation. So like I said, if you have any questions, please feel free to use the chat box and make this as interactive as possible. There will be times where I'll stop and ask you guys questions as well. So please feel free to use the reactions button or type into the chat box to respond. So a little bit about me. I grew up in San Diego, and I decided that I wanted to get a change of scenery because the ocean just wasn't beautiful enough. No, that's not true. San Diego was amazing, but I wanted to explore a little bit more of the country. So I decided to leave home and pack up and move to the Midwest. And so I went to school in Indiana, which was a very different change from California, but I learned a lot, especially about corn. I didn't know that there was so much to learn about corn, but there was quite a bit to learn. I majored in economics, and economics is something that has always made sense to me, the way that my brain works. If you guys have taken economics classes versus accounting classes, you guys probably will go one way or the other. So for those of you who have taken both an economics and an accounting course, go ahead and do thumbs up if you liked accounting better, or do heart if you liked economics better. I'm just curious. All right, pretty evenly split. Looks like my economics won a little bit, but mostly because I liked drawing pictures and it made sense to draw pictures to answer questions on the graphs, and I liked that a lot. So I actually joined Charles Schwab right out of school. So I've been with them for 12 years. I've had a number of different roles with them. It's been a really great company to work for. I've really enjoyed working through many different departments. I was a financial advisor myself for about 6 years. And then just about 3 years ago, I moved from Denver to Chicago to manage this branch. So it's been quite a bit of an adventure for me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here so we can jump in. All right, so that should be working. So the goal of today's session is really to help you take charge of your finances so you can successfully save and invest for your future. For those of you, like I said, who were on the other call, some of this is going to be a repeat, but we are going to go deeper into some topics. So it'll be really good for you here. We're going to give you some tips and tools and some different strategies to help managing your money so you have the confidence to move forward and find what works for you. Charles Schwab has done quite a few things around financial literacy and financial fitness. It's one of our core beliefs is that financial fitness is crucial. And so we have a long history of helping Americans become more financially fit. Since 2003, Charles Schwab, an independent nonprofit foundation funded by the Charles Schwab Corporation, has partnered with the Boys and Girls Club of America. So we've done a lot of things with Boys and Girls Club. We've also done quite a few things with Habitat for Humanity, Goodwill, Salvation Army, and Junior Achievement. This is one of the reasons why I've really enjoyed working for this company. A lot of companies will say that clients are their number one priority, but I've been in many different roles and I've always seen that is true through many different lenses. So I really appreciate that a lot. All right, so by the end of the session, you should be able to set some financial goals, understand where your money goes, creating a plan, and how to activate on that plan. The key concepts that we're going to cover is success strategies that you can use to really set financial goals and ways you can handle on your spending now, making sure you're creating a sensible plan, and tips for managing debt and the importance of saving and investing early. Yes, thank you, Jimmy. Please share your name and email in the chat. We do have a giveaway bag for all of you. Has a little Schwab bag, a notepad, and a great book that Doug recommended. So I'm really excited for you guys to get that box. I dropped those off to Jimmy last week. So please make sure you do give out your information so you can get one of the swag bags, but we here at Charles Schwab call them swag bags because we're clever like that. All right, so each of us has different financial needs and goals based on where we are in our life and the things that are important to us. We all have to juggle financial priorities and goals throughout our lives. This is one of the main ideas that I want you guys to keep in mind is the amount you save and or spend is the single most important factor in achieving financial fitness and meeting your goals. So I'm going to say it again. The single most important factor is the amount you save or the amount you spend is the most important factor in achieving your financial fitness and goals. So just make sure you kind of resonate on that. We talked a little bit last time about the importance of really just being aware of the choices that you're making. A lot of times we make choices on a whim, or we make choices where we think we don't really have a choice and we do one thing or another, but being very conscious about the choices that we make. And if you're going to use debt, that's fine as long as you're being aware of the way that you're using it and you're using it in a smart way. So like I said, just always be aware. The good news is that your spending and saving rates are within your control. All of us need to pay for things every day, whether it's food, lunch, coffee, t-shirt, new shoes, gifts for friends and families, whatever it is. There's different needs and wants, and we talked a lot about that last time, the difference between the needs and wants. And we're also trying to put money aside for personal goals, things that are really important for us to achieve and be able to pay for, whether that's for ourselves or for those who depend on us. And it can be very challenging to have different competing financial goals. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is success strategies for managing those competing goals. These may seem really obvious, but you would be surprised how effective they can be when you put them to work and how easy they are to forget. I don't know if you guys have heard the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid or keep it simple, sweetheart. And I truly believe that a lot of times things really do boil down to very simple ideas. It's just making sure that we're actually activating and being consistent on those simple things that can make a huge difference. So the first one is being very specific about your goals. The clearer you are with where you want to go, the better chance you have of getting there. The second strategy is taking the time to decide how you want to spend and save your money. Once you've made that decision and worked out your plan, the real trick is to, like I said, stick with your plan, consistency over time. Start today and save and invest to meet your goals. Even if the amount seems small, the longer that you save and the more time your money has to grow. And finally, debt. So this strategy can really make or break your financial fitness. We want to make sure that we don't get tripped up by debt. Keeping your debt manageable may seem like a challenge, but in a few minutes, you'll see that it is actually very doable, and there are ways to use debt to your advantage.
So Tiffany, I just want to pause just for a second to maybe see if we can get some goals from some of the participants. What are some of the goals that you guys have, your financial goals that you want to achieve in, let's say, the next 3 to 5 years? Let's just get a few in the chat.
Great idea. I love it. Either feel free to jump in, speak up, or go ahead and put it in the chat.
And just to give everybody an example, one of my goals is to pay off one of my credit cards that has the highest interest rate, just to kind of get that done by the end of the year. Cassie, looks like Kayla Richardson says she wants to graduate from college debt-free. I'm totally with you on that one. That's a great goal.
Great goal.
My name Dava, and
Hey there.
one of the
Hi.
Hello. One of the goals I have is after I graduate college, I want to have some money saved up. Well, I want to have a lot of money saved up for my future. Even though I'm gonna be graduating college, I still want my future to be bright and stuff like that. Like I could be financially stable.
That's awesome. It's a great goal.
Hey, Tiffany.
It's like college is a big one.
Hello. Hey, Tiffany.
Yes.
Hey, and I know some of the students on here also, we talked a little bit about the engage or the event today, and some of them are interested in saving money to start their own business as well.
That's wonderful. I love that. Absolutely. Those are great goals. Some of the things that we talk about with goals is putting your goals in writing. If you don't write your goal down or you don't tell anybody about it, it's really just a dream, right? And so we want these goals to become reality. So key point is writing your goals down. Literally write them on sticky notes, write it on your journal, put it as a screenshot as the background of your phone. So it's always in front of you and motivating you. And that's why you're going to be doing what you do. And that's why you are making a decision to maybe have a black coffee instead of a $12 Frappuccino. Keep that in mind and keep your goals in front of you all the time. But when you write your goals down, we want them to be SMART goals. I know you guys have probably heard this, but specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound or trackable. So I like, Doug, how you said you wanted to pay off your highest interest credit card and then you threw in by the end of the year, right? So that's specific and trackable. So we know how to tell, did you meet that goal? Yes or no at the end of the year? Did you pay it off? Great. So success strategy number one, making sure you write your goals down in this SMART format. Again, it seems silly, it seems simple, but it really does make a difference when you can track and measure how are you performing towards your goal. Sometimes it's hard to see yes or no, did you accomplish that goal? But how are we doing? Are we 25% there? Are we 50% there? How am I going to tell if I'm making progress towards my goal? And so that's something that you want to think about when you're writing out your goals, is how are you going to be able to track that progress? So for example, a goal could be, I want to save for my emergency fund. That's a great goal. But to get a little bit more specific on it, what's missing, right? So it's relevant and achievable, but you won't really know when you've accomplished it because it's not specific, measurable, or time bound. So here on the right, we have an example of a SMART goal: saving $300 a month to cover basic living expenses. Therefore, I need to save $300 a month for 33 months. Now, this is based on an average American household income, which is $51,000. If you take taxes into account, the net amount is approximately $40,000 or $333 a month, or which is $10,000 in living expenses. So you want to have 3 months of expenses in an emergency fund. So becoming more specific with those goals. So save $300 a month for 33 months. Very specific. Now, after you list your goals, you need a plan to achieve them. Most financial goals require a lump sum payment that's typically larger than the amount you would get in a single paycheck. So you're going to have to save up for that goal, or you'll likely fall short. One really effective way to save regularly, if you have a job, is if you have direct deposit into your savings account every time you're paid. I do this personally. So I have, as soon as my paycheck comes into my account, it's split up. This amount goes over to savings. This amount goes right into my rent and car payment folder. And so then when I look at my checking account, I know that the money that I have in there is on top of these mandatory expenses that I already have. So if you don't have a checking account, savings account, set one up. You can set one up at Charles Schwab. There's no fee to do that, and have the direct deposit. So that way you're starting to save without even thinking about it. And you can always change that from time to time if it's too much or if you realize you can save more. Coordinating your savings takes planning and time. It would be nice and easy if our goals were all spaced out, one goal every 10 years, but we know that that's not how life works. Instead, you'll want to decide how are you going to allocate your savings among your most important goals, whether that's buying a car, helping pay for college, building an emergency fund, starting a business. By tracking how you spend your money now, you'll be able to find more ways for you to save for those goals. Do you ever get a paycheck and then all of a sudden 3 weeks later, you're like, where the heck did all my money go? Has that ever happened to anyone? Give me a show of hands. Yeah, that happens to me too, right? All of a sudden you're like, wait, what the heck happened to all my money? Many people aren't sure where it goes. So a successful way to see where your money goes is to start writing down everything you spend for a week. So they have a lot of ideas here, but the most logical one is almost everybody has some kind of phone or device or tablet that you have on you at all times, right? So create a little note and just start keeping track of everything that you spend. Or if you keep receipts, you can stick them in an envelope and tally them up at the end of the week. But it's a really good idea to get a clear picture of where are you spending your money and where can you take the next step on making a spending plan.
And a lot of you guys are lucky. You've grown up in a world of apps. So there's so many free apps out there that will allow you to track your spending. A lot of them are free or a minimum cost. You can kind of tie them to your account, or you can just enter in information in there, and that'll kind of help you stay on track with a lot of your financial goals.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of work, right? So why are we doing it? When you see where your money's going, you can see how even little amounts add up. And this can be really helpful in making spending decisions that support your short and long-term goals. For example, we just talked about the importance of making it a priority to save for an emergency fund. That's a big benefit that you would gain from spending more wisely. The great thing about spending less is that it helps you save more. Spending wisely is also a very smart way to keep your debt under control. Like we talked about before, debt can be a great tool, but it can also take control of you very easily, and you want to make sure that that does not happen. So if you buy only what you need, pay every account balance in full at the end of every billing period, pay on time to avoid late payments, you'll be pretty amazed to discover how much money you can actually save by not paying extra debt to spend on things that are more important to you. So let's take a look at developing a spending plan and really how to manage debt, because this is really the best time to learn about it. It's a lot easier to avoid going deep into debt than digging out later. And yes, we will make sure you guys have a copy of all of the slides. So I will definitely send those out. So Jimmy will send those to you guys. Whether you call it a budget or a spending plan, you need to analyze your financial income and outflow. So you want to start by figuring out how much you have to spend each month. Account for money that you expect to receive every month. Make sure you include any income that you have from a job, maybe an allowance, employer wages, odd jobs. How should you account for unexpected income? Like, let's say you get a birthday gift or a bonus. We really recommend putting a larger portion of those types of income into savings directly because you didn't expect it. So it's easier to save. I know we want to go buy the new pair of shoes. Trust me, I had to buy a bookshelf for my shoes. So I get it. But I'm trying to not spend as much money on shoes because right now I barely even go outside anymore. So why do I need shoes, right? So since you can't depend on bonuses and gifts, don't include those in the amounts that you're calculating as regular sources of income. The next step is to analyze your monthly spending. The point of the plan is to create a balance between your income and your outflow. So that way you're not spending more than you have coming in. Equally important that you're spending in ways that help you achieve your financial goals, right? I know you guys have all heard the term, you need money to make money. Sometimes that's true, right? So we need to save that money so that way we have money to make money. If you're living at home, housing, utilities, and food may not be as relevant to your situation, but as you're preparing to live on your own, or if you are living on your own, consider how much you'll need to cover those expenses, those essentials, and coming up with a spending plan will help you decide realistically how much you can afford. All right, so debt as a financial tool. We didn't go into debt too much last time, so we're going to actually go into debt a little bit more. Let's see here. So I know that we mentioned earlier, it's a lot easier to dig out, or it's a lot harder to dig out of debt rather than prevent going into debt. And I can tell you from personal experience as well as professional experience working with so many clients, it is very, very true. Debt is a double-edged sword. It can be a wonderful tool, but you have to really, really make sure you understand it and keep an eye on it, because it can turn you into a tool pretty fast as well. So how does debt work for you? It can help you achieve your goals if you don't take on more debt than you can reasonably repay. So it allows you to borrow money to buy something you don't have the full amount to pay for today and pay for it over time, such as loans for a home or tuition. Now, debt that works for you has two really important features. One, a relatively low interest rate, and two, tax deductibility. The tax deductibility helps reduce the amount that you owe in federal and sometimes state income taxes. And the less you owe in taxes, the more you can save to meet your goals. How many of you, show of hands here, had gotten a new job, you figured out, how much you were going to be making an hour, you figured out how many hours you worked in that pay period, and then all of a sudden you get your check and you're like, hey, where'd all my money go? Has that ever happened to anybody else besides me? So once you start getting that paycheck, you will really recognize the taxes that are coming out of that, right? So again, we want to make sure that our debt is working for us. So your student loans, for example, if you are taking student loans, you do get a tax deduction on the interest that you're paying on your student loans. So that's an example of debt that's working for you. Debt that works against you, however, can have just the opposite effect. It can keep you from achieving your goals. This type of debt is really easy to spot. It has a high interest rate, typically somewhere over 10%, and the interest that you're paying is not tax deductible. So I have some numbers here. This is a little bit older, so I don't know exactly how accurate these numbers are. I can only guess that they have gone up since this has been published, but as you can see, Americans carry a staggering amount of debt. We owe nearly $13 trillion. Americans owned nearly $9 trillion on their mortgages, over $1 trillion on student loans, and $800 billion on their credit cards. The average credit card per borrower is over $5,000. That's a lot. These debt levels are significant because they also suggest that millions of people are spending a lot of money to pay down debt. And when you're spending money to pay down debt, that's less money that you have to save for your goals or for retirement. I love your question. Are there any meetings for help getting a job? So I know that the Chicago Urban League has a lot of things, and Charles Schwab is helping as well with a career panel that's coming up. I don't know if Jimmy has mentioned that to you guys yet, but there's a lot of things that we can do to help, as well as take a look at resumes, help you put resumes together. So definitely feel free to reach out, find me on LinkedIn. I would love to help you guys out any way you can. All right. So how do we keep debt manageable? It's important to make sure you are establishing credit in your name, but you need to remember that with credit comes responsibilities. You know, the privilege of having credit also can, like we said many times, be a double-edged sword. So make sure you start slowly. So apply for just one credit card at a time. Do not be tempted to apply to every time you're offered a new card. As soon as you get your own address, you will be getting tons of credit card offers in the mail. Most of them, honestly, are total trash. Find a credit card that has a low interest rate and no annual fee. They're out there, and just don't listen to what all the mail says. Charge only what you know you can afford to pay down each month. You really want to keep track of what you're charging and putting on the card, and try to avoid using it for little things like coffee or other small purchases, because those are things that you think are pretty negligible. It's only $3 here, $4 there, but that really, really adds up over time. And you really want to make sure that you pay your credit card bill on time every time, and you pay it in full. Some credit cards allow you to take a cash advance. You want to try to avoid doing this because it typically has a much higher rate of interest, and that's not necessarily clear unless you're reading all the fine print. So in general, avoid taking cash advances. Any questions on what we've covered so far? I want to just kind of pause and see what questions you all have.
When you
And just
say
while we're
cash, you go.
No, I was just going to just mention to everyone, when you are looking at credit cards, just as I mentioned in the last session that we had, it's important to do your research. There's a lot of different sites that are out there that will allow you to compare and contrast different credit cards. So you can, so as Tiffany was talking about, you can figure out which cards have that low rate that might be an intro rate, but maybe it'll stay low going forward, or which card does not have an annual fee. So anytime that you're looking to get a credit card, make sure you're researching and comparing and contrasting different cards to make sure that you're picking that card that's going to work for you.
Absolutely. I know someone else chimed in too.
I was just gonna ask, what is cash advances?
So it's like purchasing something on a credit card, but instead of buying something, you're just taking out cash from the credit card, and then you have that cash to go and purchase something. Sometimes different things require cash up front, and so that might be one reason why you would want to do a cash advance, or why you would need to. But nowadays, not many places require cash instead of credit. But that was a great question. All right, well, we'll go ahead and keep moving on here. So
Tiffany, I just want to mention something really fast about the cash advance. So that's definitely something you want to try to stay away from. Cash advances come with a very high interest rate. So typically for a cash advance, you're going to be looking at anywhere from 20% and on up for taking that cash advance. So let's say if you take out $1,000, you may pay an additional 20% on that $1,000. And then if you don't pay it all off at the same time, it's going to continue to earn interest in which you'll have to pay back. So that's why a lot of people will tell you to stay away from those cash advances if you can.
Yes. Great point. All right, so we're going to do a little bit of math here, and we're going to actually talk about the real cost of credit. So the real cost of credit really depends on three things: the interest rate that you pay, the time it takes you to pay it back, and then any other late fees or penalties that are added onto your balance. All right, so let's jump into that first one. Your lender or your credit card company the credit card charges, by law, they have to be quoted in what's called an APR, annual percentage rate. It's what borrowing costs each year, including any fees associated with the application, credit check, or similar fees. But the APR does not include late fees or over limit fees or an annual fee that some credit cards have. So for example, if the APR on a $1,000 loan is 12%, that means you will owe $120 in interest for 1 year. If the APR is 18%, you would owe $180 in interest for 1 year. The second thing is the length of time. This is sometimes referred to as the term of the loan. That's how long it takes you to repay a loan balance. If you repay that $1,000 loan with the 12% APR we were just referring to, in just 1 month, it'll only cost you $10 in interest. 120 divided by 12 months is 10. If it takes you 2 years to pay it off, it's going to cost $240, which is 120 times 2. If it takes you 10 years, it can possibly approach or even exceed the amount that you initially borrowed. It's a little bit more complicated with a credit card because you're not borrowing at a fixed amount. You may pay off a little bit and then add more, but it's still the same rule that the longer the repayment period, the more the borrowing costs. And Erin, absolutely, you can pay it off at once, and that's what is recommended to do. So if you go ahead and make a purchase, 20 to 30 days from then, when you pay your credit card bill, it's best to pay it off all at once. So absolutely, great question, Erin. The third factor is late fees or penalties that are charged, because that gets added onto your balance and then any additional interest is charged on that. So it's growing your balance all at once. And so late fees can be as much as, well, this was 3 years ago, this is $39, so that's probably also gone up. So for example, if you had a $1,000 balance on a credit card and a 12% APR and 2 late fees, the cost of borrowing for the year would cost you almost $200. The main point here is that the way to reduce the cost of credit is to be able to borrow at a lower rate, pay the balance sooner, and avoid penalties. So again, carefully managing your credit card debt, or it can become easily out of control. And I'm going to show you an example, and it's nuts. So credit cards are a little bit different than borrowing in a lump sum. So most credit card terms and agreements, if you have an outstanding balance, you pay interest on any new purchases with that card starting from the day you make them. Second, and this is really important, paying only the minimum balance, even if you always pay on time, makes such a tiny dent in what you owe that typically interest charges will accumulate on that outstanding balance. So the total amount due in that billing period could almost be as much as it was in the previous one. So you're not actually paying down any debt, but you're still making payments. All right, so this example here, This is showing how compound interest, which we talked about in the last workshop, can work against you with debt. So this is how it can easily escalate on unpaid balances if you're only paying the minimum balance. So for example, let's say that you owed $6,000 in credit card debt, and we're putting that right here because that's how much you spent. And so you have $6,000 left on your credit card you need to pay off. How you pay that debt off will make a huge difference in what you have left each month to save for your goals. So if you make minimum payments of $120 a month and you're paying, the rate that they're using here is 14.95% in interest. If you make no new purchases, you just stick with the $6,000 and you're paying the 120 minimum each month, it will take you 6 years to pay off that $6,000, but you've actually paid an additional $3,453 in interest payments. So what you bought for $6,000 actually cost you $9,500. If you pay off the debt faster, you go from owing to growing money. If you increase your payments to say $300 a month and you don't make any additional purchases on that credit card, you could pay the credit card off in less than 2 years, and you've paid $943 additional in interest payments. So the original $6,000 item that you purchased actually cost you almost $7,000. So that's a smarter way to use debt. Taking control doesn't just save you time, it saves you money. Yes, Caleb Woe is right. Sometimes I even forget about this. And when I was preparing for the presentation, I had to stop and I was like, wow. And I did the math just because I was like, is that right? That is a lot. And yes, it is right. And it is quite terrifying. So another piece of debt is your credit rating. So show of hands, hit the reaction button if you've heard of a credit score or a FICO score, or if you've heard that term. Okay, so credit score is really, really important. This will determine whether helps you qualify for credit, and if you do, what the APR that lenders and card issuers will offer you. If you have a bad or low credit score, they can charge you a higher interest rate because it's saying that you're a higher risk for them because your credit score is low, and you could potentially get a low score by paying late or being delinquent on a credit card. And so basically this credit score is how trustworthy you are with borrowing money. Carrying too much debt or having poor payment history, especially paying late and borrowing close to your max limit, really can hurt your credit rating. If you have a poor credit rating, it can also harm your ability to rent an apartment or get a job. And you might even get turned down for credit card offers. So it's really important to know what your credit score is. A good score is above 700. Has anybody ever gotten a credit report on themselves before? Show of hands. All right, so there are a handful of free credit check places, but I would say don't go ahead and check it if you haven't really had a credit card or if you haven't opened up student loans in your name. But there are a lot of ways to be able to check your credit once you do start doing that. And some credit cards will even show you your score. So for example, I have a credit card through Capital One, and this is not a commercial for Capital One, but they have a credit score that whenever it updates, it lets me know what my credit score updated to. And so I can see how when I make a large purchase on my credit, it affects my credit score, it goes down. When I pay it off, it goes back up. And so you can see the fluctuations over time in your activity and how you handle money. And this score changes, it can change, I think, really once a week. Once you start using credit, you do want to get a copy of your credit report and just make sure that there's nothing on there that's an error, because errors can hurt your ratings even if they are wrong. And the longer it goes to correct those errors, the more trouble they can cause you. So when you do get a credit report, what you want to look for are accounts that aren't yours, especially if the payments are past due, if the addresses are correct, social security number, or if there was maybe a lender that had been trying to get a hold of you and hadn't been able to, or anything else that seems wrong. Using credit responsibly really can protect a good rating, and you can make improvements on a low credit score as well. So if you do happen to make a late payment and your credit score does go down, it's not a permanent thing. There are ways to continue to use credit to rebuild your credit score. So how much debt is too much? There's a few guidelines that we can use to help you identify what's typically regarded as safe. The debt to income ratio, which we're going to talk about here, is a very common ratio that a lot of credit agencies look at. It's the safe amount of debt as expressed as a percentage of your income. By safe, we mean that it should be manageable and not put you into an undue stress situation. The same percentages are generally applicable to everyone, although the actual amount you can pay and safely owe is really based on your situation. Once you're living on your own, this information is going to be really, really helpful in managing your money and being financially fit. So basically, you want to keep what you're spending on housing to 28% or less of your pre-tax income, which that's the amount that you earn on your paycheck before taxes are withheld. For example, someone with a household income of $30,000 using this guideline would spend no more than $8,400 a year, which is $700 a month on housing. So that might mean having a roommate or multiple roommates to help share housing expenses. Similarity, to be safe, you really want to make sure to keep the total amount that you owe, including your housing, credit cards, car loans, student loans, to 36% of your pre-tax income. So again, for example, if your annual income is $30,000, you want to keep your total debt to $10,500 or less. So if you divide that by 12, that's $875 a month spending on housing and debt combined. Using the previous example, if your housing was $700 a month plus you could spend then $175 on other debt. So you don't want your total debt to go over that $875 a month, which again, that's 36% based on a $30,000 annual income. So that's just a guideline. We always recommend that when you are trying to find this out, figure out, how much you can spend, that you really go through and, you talk to somebody specifically about your situation, but this is a really good general guideline. All right, so let's review some of the things that you can do today to build the foundation of financial fitness for yourself. So number one, develop practical spending and savings plans. You want to set those SMART goals to help you decide what you want and how you'll get it. Track your current expenses and your potential savings using your new savings plan. Find an app, use the Notes app, put your goals as your screenshot of your background of your phone. Literally be thinking about your goals every single day, because we have so many decisions that we can make during the day, just going about life. And like we talked about before, really being aware of the decisions that you're making can have a huge impact, huge impact. Number two, adjust your plan. If you need a raise, if you get a raise, try to also increase your savings. And if you find that your plan isn't realistic, despite your best intentions, modify it. Number three, manage your debt wisely. As we've seen, it's very dangerous to neglect, and it can really take you off track from meeting your goals. So we've looked at how debt can grow due to compound interest, but let's look at how we can put the same principle to work for you through savings and investing. Before we jump forward, any questions? Okay, we'll keep chugging along. The power of compounding is key to savings growth. So let's take a look at how compound interest works. Each time interest is paid, it's added to your principal, which a principal is the balance in your account. So if you take a loan for $5,000, your principal is the $5,000. The next time interest is calculated, it's figured out on that newer higher balance because the interest was put in there, and then now it's your principal plus interest that you're paying interest on. So you're paying interest on interest on interest on interest, and so that means it's compounding. But it's also the other way around. When you are earning interest, you're earning interest on interest, and so your money is making money. So it's really a snowball effect. Your account can steadily grow larger. The earlier you start saving, the more compounding works in your favor. Sometimes it's hard to see that you're making a lot of progress if you're just getting started and your balance is small, but I'm going to show you an example that really, really shows over time the difference that it can make. All right. So the longer your money works for you, the more your savings can grow. Even saving smaller amounts earlier on can have a greater impact on your ending balance than saving larger amounts but starting later. So we're going to take a look at Maria and Anna. Maria saves $3,000 a year for 10 years. So she saved $30,000 over those 10 years. At year 11, Maria stops saving, but she leaves that money to grow for the future. Now, Anna, she starts saving 10 years later than Maria. Just like Maria, she saves $3,000 a year, but instead of saving for 10 years, she saves for 20 years. So she's put away $60,000. Now, if Maria and Anna both earn an average of 6% a year on their money, and you can see the chart here, but who would you think earned the most money at the end of a 35-year time period? Maria, who put away $30,000, or Anna, who put away $60,000? Anna does well, and she ends up with about $112,000, but Maria has over $177,000. How many of you guessed that Maria, who saved half the amount that Anna did, would have had more? Even though Anna saved 2 times more than Maria, she ended up with about $65,000 less than Maria did. How's that possible? Maria's money had more time to grow and work for her. Now, I do have to note here, the 6% that we're using is a hypothetical investment. Actual investments can vary, but a 6% is a hypothetical example. All right. So we've covered a lot. We've talked about success strategies that you can use for setting financial goals, which is setting SMART goals, develop a spending plan, keeping debt manageable, ways to track your spending now so you know where your money's going, creating a sensible spending plan, tips for managing debt and using credit wisely, and the importance of saving and investing as soon as you can. I'm really proud of you guys all for just, coming to this presentation. You've taken a huge step towards financial fitness by just being here and learning. The next step is to put these strategies to work. One thing that I wrote down is having a goal is great, but you really want to make sure that you're sharing it and that you have peers or people that you can trust to help hold you accountable. So, talk with your friends, talk with the Urban League, share some of these points with your friends and family and talk about your goals. What are your goals? If it's a car, put that picture on your phone, look at it every single day. And then maybe when you go to buy coffee, you'll buy a small black coffee instead of a large $12 Frappuccino. So if you think about saying, all right, well, I'll take my small black coffee today instead. Okay, so that's $8 I can put into my savings account. So put $8 in your savings account because you were about to spend it on a coffee, but you decided, nope, I'm going to invest in myself instead. Move it over to your savings account. So getting a checking and savings account where you can do that online. Most of them have apps where you can do something like that. It's a very easy way to continue spending, and it shows you the impact of your day-to-day choices. So I know we covered a lot today, but what questions do you have? Anything? Doug, anything that you want to add?
No, I just want to thank everybody for showing up tonight and asking good questions, and thank you to the Urban League for having us.
What are some good suggestions for putting money away in your savings? Great question. A few things I would say is if you are getting a paycheck, use direct deposit to automatically put money into your savings account so that way you don't ever see it. Sometimes, out of mind is the easiest way. And how much should someone put away? It's a really good question, Erin. You're going to want to take a look at your goals and figure out how much do you need to be saving. Generally you want to make sure that you're saving at least 10%, but the more you can save, the better.
Yeah, I like that, Tiffany. And I've always followed the concept of paying yourself first. So as soon as you get paid, putting that 10 to 15% away and making sure that you don't touch it. You continue to do that each pay period or monthly, just to make sure that you have something stored away.
Yeah. And then, I love the idea of tracking your choices. Like I said, little things make a difference. And I use the coffee example because I'm addicted to coffee. And if you say it, literally, if we're going to go buy this, but then you said, nope, I'm going to make a better choice. I'm going to buy this instead. Take the difference, transfer it from your checking account to your savings account. And after a couple of months of making conscious choices like that, you will see the difference. Thank you all for your questions and participating. Kayla, if you can save 50%, that would be better. The more the better. They actually say you should be saving however old you are is the percent that you should be saving. So, I should be saving 35% of my paycheck, which is pretty difficult. But that's a good rule of thumb. 10, 15, 20%, as much as you can. And find me on LinkedIn, Tiffany Dolby. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. If you have questions about wanting to open a checking account or savings account, let me know. We've got people that can help you with that. Yep, Jimmy, 45%. That's a lot, right? Jimmy, anything you wanted to add?
Know that I'm getting older.
We all are every day.
Hey, I know some of the students were sending me chats on the side as well. Any additional help that you all need when it comes to this? I know we've been talking about it in some of your classes on how to start this mindset of being financially fit and starting to save. So if you need any help with getting a job or building your resume, we do have Schwab who will work with us, but the Chicago Urban League is definitely here from you. I know some of you said you haven't even started a job or have started a resume. That's okay. That's okay if you haven't. We can start today. No worries. And I'll put my email in the chat, and then we'll definitely keep in touch with Doug and Tiffany, and they'll continue to provide some support around that.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you everyone. I will send this presentation to Jimmy so he can get it out to all of you guys. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Go make good financial choices.
Don't forget to put your names and your emails in the chat so you can get your swag bags as well. So we're gonna copy your emails down and reach out to you about your swag bags.
I will
Thank
keep
you, Erin.
that up. I'll keep this up for a couple more minutes in the event. Thank you, Erin. I just want to thank Tiffany and Doug. Again, this was a wonderful presentation. We will make sure that the recording goes out to students who were not able to join us today. And I just want to thank you all, students, for being on this call as well. thank you to the team who supported us and supported this event for being on as well.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all. You guys have a good evening.
Thank you for coming,